Aloha, everyone. How's it? So, here we are. Welcome to Hawaiian Studies 107. I'm having to re-record this lecture because of some technical difficulties. So, yeah, we're going to get started right now. All right, so our first lecture is on Hawaiian theories of origins and historic mythologies. Basically, we're going to be talking about creation stories. We're going to cover a couple of creation stories. First, we're going to talk about the Kumulipo. Kumulipo is a very, very old creation story. Literally means a foundation. And we're going to learn a little bit about it. It starts off in Kawai Kahi, starts off by saying, O ke au I kahuli vela ka honua, o ke au I kahuli lole kalani, o ke au I kaka ia ka kala. At the time of changing, the earth was hot. At the time of changing, the heavens unfolded. At the time when the sun appeared in shadows. E ho'oma lama lama I ka lama, causing the moon to shine. O ke au o makali I ka po, o ka vale vale o kumu honua ia, o ke kumu o ka lipo I lipo ai. At the time when the Pleiades was seen in the night, when the slime established the earth at the beginning of the deep darkness. O ke kumu o ka po I poi, o ka lipo lipo, o ka lipo lipo, o ka lipo kala, o ka lipo ka po. The beginning of the night, only night, in the unfathomable dark blue darkness, the darkness of the sun in the endless night. So, I mean, how dark was it? It was super dark, right? Only dark, that's all there was. Po vale ho'i. It was entirely night. Now I have to pause here because I want to sort of make a high-level comparison between this and the Christian creation story. Okay, for those of you who know the creation story, the Christian creation story, well, you have basically dark and light are symbolic of different types of entities. Light representing positive or holy, and dark representing negative or evil. Hawaiian thinking, completely different, okay? In Hawaiian thinking, knowledge, nighttime is a time for knowledge because it comes from the gods at night. Okay, there is not this negative connotation with it being night or it being dark in Hawaiian thinking. Okay, let's continue. Hanau kapo, hanau kumulipu I kapo he kane, hanau po'ele kapo he wahine, hanau ka uku ko'ako'a. The night gave birth. Born to the night was Kumulipo, a male. Born to the night was Po'ele, a female. Born from these two was the coral polyp. All right, so we see that the night gives birth to two entities, one of which is named Kumulipo, which literally means foundation of darkness. The other one is named Po'ele, which literally means the dark night. Okay, these two entities, they're not people, these two entities are genderized. Okay, Kumulipo is a male, Po'ele is a female. These two entities come together, and by virtue of procreation, right? Sexual contact and then procreation, the first creature is born. And that creature is the coral polyp. Now, I don't know how many of you know how big a coral polyp is, but it's pretty darn tiny, okay? Like a size of a pinhead or something like that, okay? This is the first creature that's born, not men, not anything like that. It's the coral polyp. All right, so let's watch a video real quick.
Aloha e nā haumana. We're on Maui today on the south side, and it's getting a little dark, but it's a perfect time to talk about Kumulipo. And I'm here with Kalei Koa Ka'eo to do that. Aloha.
Belina, aloha kako e nā kiki.
How you doing, brother?
Maika, good.
Can you
Beautiful.
share a little bit about the Kumulipo with us and how it pertains to this aina?
But the main thing about the Kumulipo is that it's a story, it's a history, it's a genealogy, it's an ancient song, which tells us where we as a people, the Kanaka, where we come from. And specifically, it talks about we begin from the very beginning of time itself, the very beginning of the stars and the heavenly bodies. And the first life form that comes from the ocean, the Ukukokua, is actually an ancestor to our people. And from the Ukukokua, saying that life comes from the ocean, and all the life forms on this land that you see here are in fact all relatives to us, and our cousins, or Hohanau, as we see.
Wow. Okay. So why is the Kumulipo so important?
The Kumulipo doesn't just explain to us where we come from, but it
Okay.
gives us a good understanding of who we are as Oiwi, as natives of this land. And in fact, we are part of the landscape, and all those living things you see up in the uplands and in the ocean, in fact, are relatives, and we have a familiar relationship with all these Oiwi.
Familiar. We're related to them.
We are related. We are all cousins.
We're all cousins. Wow. Okay. So now, why is the Kumulipo so important to Native Hawaiians?
Especially for today, it gives us a very good cultural foundation
Okay.
of who we are today, and in fact, more importantly, how we're going to exist and journey on into the future.
So it tells us where we came from,
Correct.
who we are today, and where we're going
Be
tomorrow.
in the future. Correct.
Wow. Okay. Now, I know in this, they call it cosmology.
The cosmogony.
Cosmology. Okay. Okay. Now, in that, is a story, and Haloa's in there too, right?
Right.
Where does Haloa show up, and who is Haloa?
But in the Kumulipo, Haloa comes about 1,000 generations after La'i, who's the first human being.
Okay.
But Haloa, we have two Haloa. We have Haloa Naka, Laukapalili, who's the first Kalo clan. And then you have Haloa, the first Kanaka, the first human.
Okay. So the first human is La'i.
Correct.
Okay. And then 1,000 years
Generations
later, 1,000 generations later,
we
boom,
have Haloa.
Haloa is born. And who is Haloa?
And Haloa is a product of Wakea and Papa and their offspring, Wohoku Kalani.
Okay. And so Haloa is born, and Haloa is Kalo.
The first Haloa is Kalo.
Okay.
The second Haloa is the Kanaka.
Okay.
And with the genealogy also, it also said that land itself is an elder sibling. So we as Kanaka are part of this greater family.
Okay. 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 So we're all related in
All
that
related.
sense.
Everything that you
That's
see
the
out there, in fact,
genealogy.
are family members within this great Ohana.
Wow. Okay. Now the Kumulipo, is it a short story or is it?
Oh, it's a very long, long song. In fact, it takes about nearly 3 hours to perform. It's over 2,100 lines long.
2,100
Yeah.
lines.
And it's a very ancient song. It's been passed on for generations upon generations upon generations to be received by us today.
So can you share with us a little bit of the Kumulipo?
Okay, awika ulivela kahonua. Okay, awika ulilo lekalani. Basically, that's the opening lines, which says that from the very beginning of time, space and time started to turn.
Right.
So began this great epic story. And we, in fact, we're just the latest chapter in this long, long epic story.
Wow. This is a huge story that we're a part of. Now, are we connected through this story? We're connected to this Aina. How are we connected to this Aina?
Well, one specific part of the Kumulipo is interesting. In the last wa
Right.
of the Kumulipo, it comes down through the island of Maui, the genealogies of Maui.
Oh.
Before it makes a jump to
Oh.
Hawaii Island. So Maui
Okay.
plays a very significant role.
That's
in
why
regards
we
to
here.
the descendants of
Right.
the Kumulipo.
Okay, so when we talk about Aina and Evi, how does that relate to the word Oevi?
Well, Oivi, of course, the idea is that we, as the Kanaka, are Oivi to this land. But also many of the plants and animals that you see here are also Oivi. Part of this family. We're all the original descendants of the Kumulipa, therefore are all part of this one family.
I get it. So we're all related in some way or some form. We're related to the sky. We're related to the ocean. We're related to the Aina. We're related to the Koa. We're
The
related.
trees up in the upland and the fishes in the sea are all ancestors and all distant relatives.
And what that means to us is that we take care of one another.
Correct. In fact, like any family member, we care for the family. We malama this family member. Not because it's something that we see as being something separate from us, but in fact,
Right.
we see ourselves as being part of it.
And I guess that's what makes us native, right?
Correct. That's something that specifically talks about we as the Oivi. Part on our Kula Ivi, and the word Kula Ivi, of course, talking about our homeland.
Right.
That the Ivi itself of our ancestors are within the lands themselves.
Wow.
So wherever we walk upon this ground, we virtually walk upon the Ivi of our ancestors.
Wow. Something to think about, yeah? The next time you walk outside, think about it. Taleko, mahalo for sharing
Thank you for
about that
coming and visiting us here at
Kumulipo.
Keoni
Yeah.
O'Io,
Keoni-
Ula, and Maui.
Keoni O'io, Honua Ula. The island is Maui. We're Kumukahi. This is Kalekoa Ka'eo. See you guys later.
Aloha.
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 All right, so we need to talk about this word. This word is going to be on the exam, so you need to make sure that you understand fully what it means. It is mo'oku'auho. So everybody try and say that. Let's take it little by little. Mo'oku'auho. Mo'oku'auho. Try. Mo'oku'auho. Perfect. All right, this word means genealogy. Basically, what the Kumulipo is a giant genealogy, right? It's a giant genealogy, 2,100 lines long. And actually, the guy who was on the video, Kaleko Akaeo, he is a professor at UH Maui College. He's the only person that I know that can actually do that chant in its entirety from memory. He is recognized by most of us as being the foremost authority on the Kumulipo. He has spent decades studying this particular chant and genealogy. So this is all a genealogy, and what we'll learn about Hawaiian societies that everything, the entire society was based on genealogy. All right, so again, remember that word, mo'oku'auho. Okay, so Hawaiians did not have a written language until after the missionaries get here, okay? And we had a tremendous depopulation at one point, and we'll be covering that in our class. But we had a tremendous depopulation at one time, and because we didn't have a written language, and because our language was actually oppressed, we came very close to losing a lot of our mo'olelo. Now, the word mo'olelo is oftentimes defined as stories. Now, I kind of hate that definition, because the word stories kind of denotes that it's a fiction, right? It's fictional. Actually, I prefer to use the term oral histories, because mo'olelo, what these are this is oral histories that have been passed down from generation to generation. When you don't have a written language, that means that every generation has the responsibility or the kuleana of passing down all of the knowledge by virtue of speaking and listening, right? So, for instance, the Kumulipo, that would have been passed down for more than 2,000 years, generation to generation, one generation memorizing it, and then transmitting that to the next generation and making sure that they memorize it. That's a lot of memorization, right? So, how is it that we know what we know about Hawaiian history and Hawaiian worldview? Uh, Basically, it comes down to these three men. These three men on this slide, the guy on the left is David Malo, in the middle is John Papa I'i, and on the right is Samuel Kamakau. Now, these three, they're not exclusive, right? These guys are not the only ones that transmitted information, but we do have them to thank for a lot of the knowledge that we have today. All three of them were scholars at the Lahaina Luna, at Lahaina Luna, what today is called Lahaina Luna High School. Originally was a seminary, and in fact, it is the oldest school west of the Rockies. So we're talking about a very old school. We will learn about the education process here in Hawaii and how it really was an amazing system. We had an amazing literacy rate and population that was literate. All right, anyway, so these three gentlemen, and you will need to know their names for the exam. These three gentlemen, what they do is because of the depopulation, they start going out while they're studying at Lahaina Luna. They go out into communities and start recording these oral histories, and they write them down, and then they print them in newspapers. We had Hawaiian language newspapers. In fact, we have the largest repository of native language resources, because we have about 1 million pages of Hawaiian language newspapers that have not been transcribed nor translated. It's something like less than 5% has been translated. So these men wrote a lot Again, they weren't the only ones, but we do have them to thank for a lot of the stuff that we know now. Again, you're going to need to know them because you're going to see their names on the test. All right. Okay, so now we're going to go into the Papa and Wakea creation story. This is going to be a little bit uncomfortable for a lot of us. So please try to keep an open mind. Just because things are uncomfortable, I feel like anything that's uncomfortable, we should be talking about. Now, this is a creation story that's, again, very, very old. And we're going to talk about it. Again, it'll be a little bit uncomfortable. So go ahead and put on your seatbelts and try to keep an open mind. All right, here we go. So in the Kumulipo, eventually it gets to the part where gods appear in the genealogy. And we're going to talk about a part of that, which is the Papa Wakea creation story. Wakea is a god. Okay, these are not people. This is a god, oftentimes referred to as Sky Father because the sky is his realm. Okay, and he lived together as a family with Papa. Papa is often referred to as Earth Mother. Okay, the two of them come together, have sex, and they procreate. And their first child is Hawaii Island. That's weird, right? And I oftentimes have students go, wait, Kumu, do you really believe that Papa pushed out an island? Well, first of all, I have to say to that, oh, she's a god. I don't know what she can and cannot do. Second thing is maybe we're talking about more figurative, or maybe more abstract. I can't explain it, but that is how the mo'olelo goes. So the first child that they have together is the Hawaii Island, and the next child that they have together is Maui. Okay, now if you imagine looking at the map of Hawaii, what that means is it's going from the bottom of Hawaii up the chain. Okay, so they have these children, right? And then this is the part that gets uncomfortable. So everybody, put on your seatbelts. Then they have a daughter. Her name is Ho'ohokukalani. And Ho'ohokukalani, as she gets older, is very, very beautiful, very, very smart. And Wakea begins to desire her. All right, now, he begins to desire her, and there's a problem though. He can't get with her because Papa is always around. So he talks with his advisor, his kahuna, and they come up with this plan. The kahuna says, well, we could create a new system under which the whole society would live, called the Aikapu system. Ai meaning eat, kapu, well, kapu means, I don't know if you guys have seen that term on like if you go hiking here in Hawaii and you come across a sign that says no trespassing, oftentimes it'll say kapu. Those signs like, oh, government property, kapu, no trespassing, and then we end up going past the sign anyway and going hiking, right? So this is the Aikapu system. The advisor or kahuna comes up with this plan, and some of the hallmarks of this plan or this system is that men and women would eat separately, and also when a woman is menstruating, she would have to stay in a different house, in a different hale, while she is going through that. So what this does is it affords Wakea an opportunity to get with Ho'ohokukalani sexually, which he does. And I want to say right now that this story does not, okay, when we look at this situation through the lens of current day society, right? Because I'm not advocating for incest. I just want you to know that. That's not what I'm saying. But there's no talk of rape. We don't know anything more than what's presented to us, right, at face value. So basically they do get together, and she becomes pregnant. And we don't know how Papa finds out. I don't know if Kalani told her or if she noticed, right? But basically she does find out eventually. And what do you think happened? Well, Papa gets pissed. Okay, she is really, really angry and she leaves. She leaves, and some versions of this Mo'olelo say that she goes to other parts of Polynesia. Some other versions of this Mo'olelo say that she hung out in different places here in Hawaii. But in any event, she does go on and has, well, this island, Oahu. Oahu is actually another one of Papa's offspring, but with a different entity. So she's off doing her own thing, and Ho'ohukukalani and Wakea begin to live together and start a family. So the first child that she's pregnant with, and when she gives birth, the baby is stillborn. And the kahuna, or the advisor, tells them that they need to take this baby, who they named Haloa for short. Haloa Nakalau Kapalili is the entire name. They took this baby and they buried it at the corner of their house, just like the kahuna told them to do. And from that very spot grows the first taro plant, right? Our word for taro is kalo. So the first kalo plant grows from there. And so it is said that kalo is actually Ho'ohukukalani and Wakea's firstborn. They do have another pregnancy, and that child is healthy, is born healthy. It's a male. They also name this child Haloa. So the second Haloa is considered a high chief, a god who walked upon the earth, and actually the progenitor of every Native Hawaiian, even today, is connected to Haloa. All right, so this Mo'olelo, and by the way, eventually Papa and Wakea get back together, okay? But anyway, this Mo'olelo, the Wakea and Papa story, definitely points to a bunch of different hallmarks of Hawaiian society. The first of which is Malama Aina. Now, you may have heard this term before, right? When I ask my students, what is Malama Aina? A lot of times they say, oh, that's picking up rubbish. Well, is picking up rubbish Malama Aina? It can be, but is that all that it is? Definitely not. Malama Aina, Malama means to take care of, Aina means land, to take care of land, but it's deeper than that, right? When we think about the Papa and Wakea Mo'olelo, you have the firstborn child of Papa and Wakea. It are the islands, okay? If you think about your own family and birth order and how that works in your family, I'm gonna just talk about my family for a minute. Okay, the eldest siblings, I'm a middle child, but the eldest siblings, me and my older sister, were responsible for the younger one. The baby of the family had a very different life than we did growing up. It was our responsibility to take care of her. It was our responsibility to make sure she didn't get into trouble. And if she did get into trouble, guess who else got into trouble? That's right, the older siblings did. Okay, and I would guess that a lot of you have had that same sort of birth order process where the elder siblings are have to set the example. They have to take care of the younger one. The younger ones have a different life, right? So if we apply that to the Papa and Wakea genealogy, then we see that the firstborn is Aina itself, are the islands. The secondborn is a taro plant. It's only the thirdborn that ends up being a Kanaka or a person. And so when you think about birth order, you think, okay, well, where do we fall in on the, on the food chain, really? If you think about it that way, it's not like the Christian story, the Christian story where God gives man dominion over everything. It's quite the opposite. Actually, in Hawaiian worldview thinking, according to these genealogies, the land comes first. Therefore, Hawaiians are obligated, Native Hawaiians are obligated to take care of land and to make sure that we take care of land, we take care of kalo, we take care of all the other things that came before us, right? People in the Kumulipo don't come in until thousands of generations after everything else comes in, starting with something that's the size of a pinhead, right? All of those things, all of the sea creatures, all of the birds, all of the bugs, they all come in before we do. And what that means in terms of birth order is that we are obligated to take care of them. We are familially related to them. And so this idea of Malama Aina is a reciprocal relationship that is based on reciprocal respect and obligation to take care of one another. This is a very, very different way of looking at the world than we do typically today in today's society, right? So that's one of the hallmarks of traditional Hawaiian society. Another one is the Aikapu system. Okay, the Aikapu system this is the name of the system that Wakea's kahuna comes up with, right? So that he can get with Ho'ohokukalani. Now, while it has rather sinister or kind of negative connotations with the beginning and why it was created, this system ends up being the system under which Hawaiians live for more than 2,000 years. And Hawaiians didn't just survive, right? They thrived. And we will talk about how we know that. We'll talk about that in a future lecture. But really, this Aikapu system was the societal structure under which everybody lived, right? And the Aikapu system was based on mo'oku auhau, or genealogy. Aikapu system really does, it gave genderized roles to different and responsibilities to different people. So for instance, if we look at this image here, weaving and making bark cloth, right? Making kapa were both things that women did, but they would not have been able to do that without the men's roles, because the men were the ones who made implements. The men were the ones who grew the vauke for the kapa. So in this way, even though these roles are genderized, and the missionaries come here and they actually write about the Aikapu system as though it was oppressive to women, actually it was not oppressive to women. We realize now that it was just, while the roles were genderized, you needed both in order to be able to make sure that things were produced and that society was able to have everything that they needed to be successful. And the last thing I want to talk about is this process of ni'aupio mating. Ni'aupio mating, again, put on your seatbelt, is the type of mating that you see between Wakea and Ho'ohokalani. Okay, it's incestuous mating. Now, me talking about this, I'm not advocating, I'm gonna say it again, I'm not advocating for incest, but this was, again, a hallmark, very important part of the Aikapu system. Okay, our traditional society was stratified according to genealogy. Yeah, so you had, at the very top, you had the Ali'i Nui class, and below them you had the Ali'i class, and we'll talk about all the different strata of the society. But this Ali'i Nui class was very, very small. Okay, there weren't, when we talk about genealogy and rank, yeah, these people that were in the Ali'i Nui rank had the highest rank of anybody. Okay, and that again comes in just from who your father and mother are. All right, so if you were a child that was born into the Ali'i Nui class of people, that meant that your father and your mother had very, very high rank. Now, one of the obligations that you had to fulfill as an Ali'i Nui is that you would be obligated to have your first child with someone The goal is to have your child be at your same rank or higher than your rank. What that means is the person that you have the child with has to be at your rank or at higher rank. And so the fact that the Ali'i Nui class was so small meant that oftentimes the person that you had that first child with was related to you, okay? Just like Wakea was related to Ho'ohukalani. This is something that happened for, again, more than 2,000 years. And while we don't see it as something that is acceptable today, we do have to recognize that it worked for Hawaiians for a very, very long time. All right. Again, after they had that first child, they could go out and have children with whoever they wanted to. The obligation was to make sure that that Ali'i Nui class continued to exist. And the only way that that happens is by making sure that the children that are produced, at least one child, that first child, is produced at a very, very high rank. Again, Hawaiians are not the only people that did this, okay? People all over the world did this, including Europeans. But it is important, you will need to know this term for the exam. Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next lecture as well. All right, so mahalo for tuning in, mahalo for paying attention, mahalo for wearing your seatbelt when I said to, and I will see you at the next lecture, all right? Mahalo, remember that there was a lot of vocabulary in this lecture that you'll need to know for the exam. All of that is on our Satori page, and I'll see you soon, all right? Malama pono, aloha.